16. 1. Claims that local food production cut greenhouse gas emissions by reducing the burning of transportation fuel are usually not well-founded. 2. Transport is the source of only 11% of greenhouse gas emissions within the food sector. So reducing the distance that food travels after it leaves the farm is far less important than reducing wasteful energy use on the farm. 3. Food coming from a distance can actually be better for the climate, depending on how it was grown. 4. For example, field-grown tomatoes shipped from Mexico in the winter months will have a smaller carbon footprint than local winter tomatoes grown in a greenhouse. 5. In the United Kingdom, lamb meat that travels 11,000 miles from New Zealand generates only 1/4 the carbon emissions per pound compared to British lamb because farmers in the United Kingdom raise their animals on feed, which must be produced using fossil fuels rather than on clover pastureland. 6. When food does travel, what matters most is not the distance traveled, but the travel mode, surface versus air, and most of all the load size. 7. Bulk loads of food can travel halfway around the world by ocean freight, with a smaller carbon footprint per pound delivered than foods traveling just a short distance, but in much smaller loads. 8. For example, 18-wheelers carry much larger loads than pickup trucks, so they can move food 100 times as far while burning only 1/3 as much gas per pound of food delivered. 17. 1. One valuable technique for getting out of helplessness, depression, and situations which are predominantly being run by the thought, "I can't," is to choose to be with other persons who have resolved the problem with which we struggle. 2. This is one of the great powers of self-help groups. 3. When we are in a negative state, we have given a lot of energy to negative thought forms, and the positive thought forms are weak. 4. Those who are in a higher vibration are free of the energy from their negative thoughts and have energized positive thought forms. 5. Merely to be in their presence is beneficial. 6. In some self-help groups, this is called hanging out with the winners. 7. The benefit here is on the psychic level of consciousness, and there is a transfer of positive energy and relighting of one's own latent positive thought forms. 18. 1. Whales are highly efficient at carbon storage. 2. When they die, each whale sequesters an average of 30 tons of carbon dioxide, taking that carbon out of the atmosphere for centuries. 3. For comparison, the average tree absorbs only 48 pounds of CO2 a year. 4. From a climate perspective, each whale is the marine equivalent of thousands of trees. 5. Whales also help sequester carbon by fertilizing the ocean as they release nutrient-rich waste, in turn increasing phytoplankton populations, which also sequester carbon, leading some scientists to call them the engineers of marine ecosystems. 6. In 2019, economists from the International Monetary Fund (IMF) estimated the value of the ecosystem services provided by each whale at over $2 million USD. 7. They called for a new global program of economic incentives to return whale populations to pre-industrial whaling levels, as one example of a nature-based solution to climate change. 8. Calls are now being made for a global whale restoration program to slow down climate change. 19. 1. An excellent alternative to calming traffic is removing it. 2. Some cities reserve an extensive network of lanes and streets for bikes, pedestrians, and the occasional service vehicle. 3. This motivates people to travel by bike rather than by car, making streets safer for everyone. 4. As bicycles become more popular in a city, planners can convert more automobile lanes and entire streets to accommodate more of them. 5. Nevertheless, even the most bikeable cities still require motor vehicle lanes for taxis, emergency vehicles, and delivery trucks. 6. Delivery vehicles are frequently a target of animus, but they are actually an essential component to making cities greener. 7. A tightly packed delivery truck is a far more efficient transporter of goods than several hybrids, carrying a few shopping bags each. 8. Distributing food and other goods to neighborhood vendors allows them to operate smaller stores close to homes, so that residents can walk, rather than drive, to get their groceries. 20. 1. You hear again and again That some of the greatest composers were misunderstood in their own day. 2. Not everyone could understand the compositions of Beethoven, Brahms, or Stravinsky in their day. 3. The reason for this initial lack of acceptance is unfamiliarity. 4. The musical forms or ideas expressed within them were completely new. 5. And yet, this is exactly one of the things that makes them so great. 6. Effective composers have their own ideas. 7. Have you ever seen the classic movie Amadeus? 8. The composer Antonio Salieri is the host of this movie. He's depicted as one of the most famous non-great composers lived at the time of Mozart and was completely overshadowed by him. 9. Now, Salieri wasn't a bad composer, in fact, he was a very good one. 10. But he wasn't one of the world's great composers, because his work wasn't original. 11. What he wrote sounded just like what everyone else was composing at the time. 21. 1. Every time a new medium comes along, whether it's the invention of the printed book, or TV, or sand you start to use it. It's like you are putting on a new kind of goggles, with their own special colors and lenses. 2. Each set of goggles you put on makes you see things differently. 3. So when you start to watch television, before you absorb the message of any particular TV show, whether it's Wheel of Fortune or The Wire, you start to see the world as being shaped like television itself. 4. That's why Marshall McLuhan said that every time a new medium comes along, a new way for humans to communicate it has buried in it a message. 5. It is gently guiding us to see the world according to a new set of codes. 6. The way information gets to you, McLuhan argued, is more important than the information itself. 7. TV teaches you that the world is fast, that it's about surfaces and appearances. 22. 1. While social media attention is potentially an instrument to achieve ends like elite celebrity, some content creators desire ordinary fame as a social end in itself. 2. Not unlike reality television stars, social media celebrities are often criticized for not having skills and talents associated with traditional, elite celebrity, such as acting or singing ability. 3. This criticism highlights the fact that digital content creators face real barriers to crossing over to the sphere of elite celebrity. 4. However, the criticism also misses the point that the phenomenon of ordinary celebrity reconstructs the meaning of fame. 5. The elite celebrity is symbolized by the metaphor of the star, characterized by mystery and hierarchical distance, and associated with naturalized qualities of talent and class. 6. The ordinary celebrity attracts attention through regular and frequent interactions with other ordinary people. 7. Achieving ordinary fame as a social media celebrity is like doing well at a game, because in this sphere, fame is nothing more nor less than relatively high scores on attention scales. The metrics of subscribers, followers, likes, or clicks built into social media applications. 23. 1. Why do we have the illusion that cramming for an exam is the best learning strategy? 2. Because we are unable to differentiate between the various sections of our memory. 3. Immediately after reading our textbook or our class notes, information is fully present in our mind. 4. It sits in our conscious working memory in an active form. 5. We feel as if we know it, because it is present in our short-term storage space. But this short-term section has nothing to do with the long-term memory that we will need in order to recall the same information a few days later. 6. After a few seconds or minutes, working memory already starts disappearing. And after a few days, the effect becomes enormous. Unless you retest your knowledge, memory vanishes. 7. To get information into long-term memory, it is essential to study the material. Then test yourself, rather than spend all your time studying. 24. 1. Seawater contains an abundance of dissolved oxygen that all marine animals breathe to stay alive. 2. It has long been established in physics that cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water. This is one reason that cold polar seas are full of life, while tropical oceans are blue, clear, and relatively poorly populated with living creatures. 3. Thus, as global warming raises the temperature of marine waters, it is self-evident that the amount of dissolved oxygen will decrease. 4. This is a worrisome and potentially disastrous consequence if allowed to continue to an ecosystem-threatening level. 5. Now scientists have analyzed data indicating that the amount of dissolved oxygen in the oceans has been declining for more than a half-century. 6. The data show that the ocean oxygen level has been falling more rapidly than the corresponding rise in water temperature. 7. Falling oxygen levels in water have the potential to impact the habitat of marine organisms worldwide, and in recent years this has led to more frequent anoxic events that killed or displaced populations of fish, crabs, and many other organisms.